Hello everybody, my name is Richard Zoltek and I'll be the instructor for this program. To initiate the program, we're going to be double-clicking the icon AutoCAD 2026. You probably have it on the desktop at the school, and if you've downloaded the free version for your use at home, it's going to be exactly the same. I would suggest moving the icon, the shortcut key, on top of your desktop so you can follow along with the instructions. So I'm going to double-click the icon here, and it will load the program, and you'll get a splash screen that comes up, and from there it will actually install the program. There we go. And this is essentially what you'll have. Now this is a list of drawings that you've worked on. We haven't, so you have nothing here. This is a drawing that I've worked on myself. So from here we're going to initiate a CAD drawing. So the first thing we have to do is identify that we want to start a brand new drawing. So in the AutoCAD icon in the upper left hand corner, you'll see there's a little triangle that basically points downwards, and here we're going to select new. So new is a procedure we go through every time we start a brand new drawing. Open is something that already exists. So the new drawing is to set up a default drawing that comes in CAD. So you'll get this, what's referred to as a template menu. And these template drawings, when you click on them, you're actually not opening up this drawing. You're opening up a copy of this drawing on your desktop, and therefore we can never destroy these drawings. So we're going to always select the acad.dwt, none of the other ones, just so that all of our menu items are exactly the same from lesson to lesson. So when I open this, there's a number of different elements we're going to be looking at on this screen, but you'll notice you probably have a dark background, whereas I would prefer to use a light background. You can customize this if you wish. We will be using 3 terms on how to use a mouse. Click on simply means using the left mouse button once. Right click is to click the right mouse button once, and double click is to click the left button on the mouse twice rapidly. So in this case we're going to right click on the mouse, and in here you'll find that there's a term called options. So just left click on the options, and when you do so you'll get this menu pop up, and here's where we can customize and change the settings. And the only thing we're going to be looking at today is the actual color of the background, and it just makes it for easier viewing in some cases, I find it. So I'm going to click on, that's single click with the left mouse key, on the word or the tab display. From here I'm going to click on the word colors, and this is where we set the background color for our display. I've got a type of gray, and all I've done is gone into the menu here where it says select color, and you'll get a pop-up menu that looks like this, and you can pick any color you wish. That's the gray color that I've selected for the purposes of this course. Once you've done this, select apply and close, and the word select means to click on. And then here, once we're all done, we select OK. And now your menu looks like mine. So let's dissect this in a bit more detail so we get a better sense of what we're looking at. The top menu list, there's all sorts of different tabs here. This is the menu bar. Now we have 2 menu bars that we're going to be working with, so immediately I'm going to ask you to open up the second menu bar. Right beside the word share, there's a little arrow that points downward with a line over top of it. Click on that. And this allows you, once again, to customize this, but there's something that we need here, which is the secondary menu bar. So here we're going to click on Show Menu Bar. If it was already present on your screen, it would say Hide Menu Bar. But in this case, mine says Show, so I'm going to click on that. And we need these 2 sets of, or 2 lines of menu tabs to be able to follow all the instructions that we have in the program. So how is this all arranged? So AutoCAD is icon driven, and the icons listed here are the most commonly used icons in the program. There's over 1,700 commands, but we're only going to be doing or working with the basic ones in the beginning to help us to become fluent with some basic operations in AutoCAD. So the menus are divided up into different areas. Draw means you're creating something new. So it's whether it be a circle, a line, an arc, or what have you. This allows us to start something brand new. And you can see as I move my mouse over top of an item, I'm not clicking on it, I'm just holding it there in place. And it'll give you some hints as to what the different elements or the commands actually do. So the draw menu creates something brand new. The modify menu changes or modifies something that already exists. Now sometimes this is sort of misunderstood when it comes to words like copy. When you think about copy, you're saying you're taking something that's there and making a new one. Well, in fact, the way AutoCAD thinks, copy requires something that already exists. So you are modifying something that's there as opposed to creating something new. And that's why we have copy and mirror and commands like that, which actually make multiple objects occur. So these are the modify items that are on the screen. And then we have annotations, which adds text and information to our drawing. And then we have the layers property. This is a very important menu. We'll be exploring it in some time because what it actually does is allows us to place our drawn items on very specific layers, or imagine, if you will, sheets of glass. And we can work on one sheet of glass at a time in this particular case, and therefore not affect any of the others. It's a management tool more than anything else. And then we have some other elements here and some matching properties and the line types and all that, but we'll get into that much later on. Immediately below that, we have this, what looks to be a grid. It's actually a virtual drawing space. It has no dimensional value to it. We will eventually assign dimensions to it, sizes and shapes to it, so that we're as if we're drawing on a piece of paper. But this is our virtual display, and we can zoom in to the size of a very, very small item to the fractions and fractions of an inch, or we can zoom out to the size of global maps. So it gives us a big range of what we can zoom in and out of. At the bottom of your screen, bottom right hand corner, these are different types of tools that will help us with our screen. So for instance, down here beside the word model, this is identifying that the grid could be a cross or it could be a series of dots. Now in this particular case, the dots are very difficult to see because I haven't got a snap setting that will display the dots properly. So we're going to leave it as crosses as opposed to dots. So it's a standard grid. And then you have different what's referred to as snap functions or drawing functions that help us draw horizontal, vertical lines, snap to objects, scaling. There's all sorts of different settings that we'll be exploring. The two most important things that we're going to be looking at when we start drawing first is the drawing tab. That's at the top left hand corner here. This says drawing number 1. Now the reason it says drawing number 1 is because we started a brand new drawing. We always start with drawing number 1. But we can have multiple drawings here going on at the same time. At the bottom, this helps us to control how we view that drawing. So we're going to stay in model space. The layout tabs, I'm just going to click on them, look like this. So if your screen happens to look like this at any given time, you've accidentally clicked down here, and all you have to do is click back onto model. So let's start something very, very basic. I'm going to click on the line tool, and I've initiated the command. Now, down here is called the command prompt, and this little space bar here, if you will, tells you what you've done. It's sort of a monitoring system that gives you an indication in real time what's happening. And AutoCAD, using its own computer language, is also trying to identify what you can do. So for instance here, when I clicked on the line tool, it says specify the first point. So I'm going to click somewhere on my screen. You can do the same. So I've specified that first point, but as I move my mouse, I can go anywhere I want. And that simply indicates that I haven't specified my second point. In fact, down in the command prompt it says specify the next point. So I can click on the next point, And I don't have to go back to the line command. I'm continuously in this command until I exit it. Now it's giving us some other information, for instance, angular information, distance, and so on. And we'll be exploring that over time. So I'm just going to click, 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 click. Now once I'm finished my line work, I will press enter. And you can see down below it's showing me next point, next point. It's actually keeping tabs on everything that I do. When I press enter, it now basically goes to a blank command prompt because I'm no longer in the line command. So I've exited the command. If I want to draw more lines, I have to go back to the line command, click on it, and then click, 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 and press enter. And that's the basic functionality of the line tool. So let's do a very brief recap of what we just did. The first thing I wanted to do was draw a line. So I had to go into and click on the line command. But remember, I'm trying to use the phrasing that CAD does, and therefore I said draw a line. And the reason I did so was so that we entered the draw submenu. And this draw menu has the line command within it. Now if I click on that, it's like a drawer. If I open that up, there's also other line commands in there too that are not as commonly used, but you could use them. But I want to click on the line command. And again, I'm looking down here to make sure, oh, it says line. So now I can draw multiple lines to this. And then I press enter. What's also interesting is when you press enter and you want to reinitiate the same command, all you have to do is press enter again. So I just did that. You'll notice at the bottom it says line once again, and I can draw more lines. So this is just one of the many ways AutoCAD helps us to be very efficient with the program. So the next step here is we're going to be learning how to save our file, and we're going to see how CAD uses a very interesting technique in saving files so that we always have a backup that's available to us. And when we save a file, we want to save it to a location. We don't want to just say file save because then we don't know where it goes. And plus, in this school environment, it goes to a desktop folder or a local folder that gets wiped out at the end of the day. So we want to make sure we control where the file goes. So I'm going to select File, and here I'm going to select Save As. So when I select Save As, it gives me locations where I can save it. And if I do something like desktop, it'll pull up everything that I have in my desktop, and here I can create a new folder in here. So I can right click anywhere and select new folder. And for this course, I'm going to select AutoCAD or CAD 150, select enter, and it will therefore be a menu item. Now there's all sorts of things that are in here. I'm going to double click on that. It says this folder is empty, but it's going to save in that folder drawing number 1. And here it is, drawing number 1. Remember, that's the name of the file, and it automatically adds the extension DWG. Perfect. I'm going to save that. Now, I need to know where it went. I need to be able to open it up again. So let's see what actually happened with that particular file. So I'm going to close the program. That's the upper X, not the lower one. The lower one closes the file, but not the program. I'm going to close the program. So it's shut down, and you can see it's gone. So where did this particular file go? Well, remember, I made a folder on my desktop called AutoCAD 150, and I'm just going to drag that folder here. And if I double click that folder, it will actually show me what's in that particular folder, drawing number 1. And that's fine. But what I don't want to do is double click the file to initiate the program. It's not a very good practice. In fact, what we want to do is actually always control where we're drawing the file from and where we're placing it back. So if I go once again in this, you'll notice I have drawing 1 DWG. Okay, I'm going to close this. I'm going to reinitiate AutoCAD, and it will come up with the AutoCAD menu prompt. I have this appearing on another screen, which just is a flash screen that says AutoCAD 2026 by Autodesk, and then the program comes up. Now you'll notice I have drawing 1 here, because that was the last file I worked on. Now this is a file I could double click, or I can open it by looking for where those files are, And it will come up with this menu to say, there's my folder, there's my drawing, there it is, there's the last screenshot of that drawing, and select open. So there's a couple ways of opening it. So now I've got this drawing. Okay, let's try a couple things, and then I'm going to show you something very interesting on what AutoCAD does. So in here, I'm going to change the color of my line work by changing a layer. So up in this particular area here, I have all my layers listed, but you'll notice all I've got is layer 0. That's a default layer. We usually never draw on that. It's like a control layer. For instance, a vehicle, it's like a clutch. You push it in to be able to change gears. I'm going to make a new layer, and we're going to be advancing this command later on to get more knowledge in it. So you're just following along without a lot of understanding. I'm going to click on the Layers Property menu, and that draws up this big screen here. And all I'm going to do here is create a new layer for a new color. So in this icon up here, you'll notice that it says New Layer. In this location, and if I click on it, it will give me a new layer. It automatically calls it layer 1. That's fine. But this chip here, I'm going to click on there and give it a new color. I'm going to pick one of these 7 colors. Let's go with red. Select OK. And now I've got a new layer. I can close this. I don't need to do anything else with this. So there's that little X. And what I've done in here, effectively in this, you'll see under the Layers submenu here, I've created a layer 1 called, or a layer called layer 1, and it's red. So when I click on that, now I'm drawing in that layer. So let's reinitiate the line command, and let's do some new line work, and then press enter. Now, like I said, I ripped through that whole section on layers. It's not important that you fully understood that because we do a very formal, long lesson on that. So it's just a matter of getting through the exercise. But what I want to show you is this. When I draw something new, like that, I can now select File, Save, not Save As, because I already have a location. That's where it's going to go. So instead, I select Save because it's going to replace that file that's already there. So I select Save, and it does the save. And now let's examine what actually happens. I'm going to open up that folder. So let me just, this time I'm not going to close CAD, but I'm just going to minimize it. I'm going to open up this folder. This is interesting what we're seeing here. What we're actually seeing here is multitudes of files being created. Now these two, the DWL and DWL2, just ignore for now. They're not worth explaining at this point. But what is worth explaining is this one called .BAK. So why do we have a BAK and why do we have a DWG? The BAK is the last version that was saved. The DWG is the most current version that was saved. So this WG contains the new layer that's red with the new line work. The BAK file contains the original drawing that I only had the black line work. And sometimes this becomes very useful if by chance there's a mistake that occurs, a file becomes corrupt, and then you can't open the DWG. All you need to do is right-click on the BAK file, change its name, okay, to change the extension of it to DWG. I'm trying to find it right here. There we go, in Properties in here, and we change that extension from BAK to DWG. And now I can open it just like this file. But so it's always one last version. Now, why do I make that point? You'll notice our 2 saves were 4 minutes apart. What I want to do, and I want to have practice in doing, is constantly saving. And if I know I've done work well, I may actually save this twice in a row. So my backup is as current as my most current file. So those 2 drawings become exactly the same. Now the reason we're going through all this is to make sure that you save your files properly and you always have a copy of them. Remember, when CAD closes, when I close this drawing, when I close drawing 1 or I close the CAD drawing, any work that I have is only available in that folder. If I leave that folder here on my desktop, what happens at the end of the day, the computers get refreshed and all my desktop information disappears. So in essence, what we need to do with this folder is we need to save it in two locations. The first one is to email ourselves with that file information. And that's just, I'm going to open it and just make an attachment with that into my email. And the second one is to download that folder into a memory stick, a USB stick that you have plugged into the computer. So you always have two copies, and therefore you can never lose your work. Because the worst thing that can happen in any sort of time when we're working with CAD is that you actually lose your work. So I'm just going to close this for now. And we're going to open up the program and open up the file once again. And I'm repeating the process so that you get used to this and it becomes a habit-forming method of using AutoCAD. So we opened up the program. There's the file with a red line because I saved it. So it's showing the most or the most current version of it. I'm going to click on that file. It opens it up. There it is. So let's take a look at some of these other menu items and what we can do. So right now, all that we've done is we've drawn a couple of lines. And again, ignore the layers command. We have a formal lesson in that. But I want to change this. I want to modify it. I want to erase it. So when I erase, I'm changing something that's already there, and therefore I've already used the terminology. I'm modifying it, and therefore I go right into the modify menu. There it is. And in here, I'm wanting to erase some lines. So I'm actually going to use the icon that actually looks like an old pencil eraser. So if I click on that, it's asking me right away, it's giving me this little square and asking me right away, select object. So we're going to be working with what's referred to as selection sets. There's a couple of different ways of picking things. And today we're going to work with three different types of selection sets. The first one is direct select. So I must put that little box, that square box, over top of what I want to get rid of. And you'll notice I get a little red X to say, hey, you've picked that, you've picked that. But they haven't disappeared. Why? Because I haven't indicated that I'm going to erase this yet. So if I pick a line inadvertently, like I don't want to pick that, I've got a couple of options here. I can type in the lettering U and enter, and it returns that line. U refers to undo. Well, what else could I do? If I click on that line and I don't want that one to be selected, I can click on that arrow that points backwards. That's also the undo command. But you'll notice that when I click on that arrow, it undoes all those lines. Why? Because one is a single stage operation. The other one is a single command operation. Let me try to explain that. When I select erase, I'm in the erase command. And as I pick items, 1, 2, 3, I'm still in the erase command and setting 1 found, 2 found, 3 found. When I type in U and enter, we're going to look at the command prompt. U and enter, there it is. It removes the last of my selection but keeps me in the erase command. If I keep going and I don't want all those lines that I picked, this time, notice it says it's found 5. I'm going to select the undo command, and you'll notice the command prompt completely changes because what's happened is it's undone the entire command sequence and got you back to the command prompt. So I can't continue erasing. In order to erase, I have to go back to the modify menu and erase it. So there's two different types of undos. There's a single step undo, and then there's the command undo. We're doing, in this case, we're selecting single objects. If I type in U and enter, it's a single step undo as opposed to a command undo. Okay, I've picked a number of items. I press OK. They're gone. So that's using direct selection or a direct selection set. Let's take a look at what other options we have. I'm going to click on the erase command. And this time, I'm not going to click on an object. I'm going to create a window. So a window is clicking two locations. It's not a click and drag. And a window must fully enclose the objects that you're picking. So I'm going to click here, move my mouse, and you can see I get a blue box. And as the lines are fully engulfed in that box, you'll notice they're disappearing. Okay, did you see that? So what's nice about this is that it allows us to, by that window selection, pick whatever is in that box. So here I'm trying to get rid of as many of the black lines as I can without touching the red lines. See, none of the red lines in my case are fully enclosed in the box. So when I click once again, it's picked everything, and I press enter, they disappear. Now watch this. I may have made a mistake right from the beginning. So what can I type in? The U and enter, or the arrow. This time both of them will do the exact same thing because I've pressed entered on my selection. So I click on the arrow, all those lines come back. And if I click on them again, all the previous lines come back. So the undo command can be repeated over and over again and get you back to where you want to go. So I'm going to click on erase one more time, and this time instead of a window, which is from the left side of the screen to the right, you'll notice you get a blue box. I'm going to do a crossing, which is from the right side of the screen to the left. Notice I'm just moving my mouse. And now the way a crossing works is the box can be much smaller, but every single line that touches that box or crosses through that box is picked. So you've got window, the line has to be fully enclosed, or crossing, where the window only has to, or that, I should say that box, only has to touch it. And therefore, once again, if I click on it to say this is the square that I'm selecting and I press enter, they disappear. So we got direct selection, we got window selections, and we've got crossing selections. Those are referred to as selection sets. So whenever I say selection sets, that's what I mean. So anytime you use a command and it says here, select objects, that's when you can use a selection set. So let me show you another example of that. Copy, the word copy. When I click on the word copy, you'll notice it says copy, select object. I can individually select, I can use a window to select, or I can use a crossing to select. They all work the same way. So those selection sets are really important in how we interact with CAD. And now that I've picked this, I'll press enter and pick one point, pick another, and there we have two identical things. Now, once again, once you've entered, completed a command, and exited, you'll notice that you get a blank command prompt. This is telling you right now, type a command means you fully finished the previous command. And if I type in U and enter, so U, enter, U, enter, U, enter, it's returning me all the way back to the beginning of the session from the last save point. Okay? Once you save it, you can't go beyond that, but now it's saved, and this is the point that it was saved at. All right, so I'm just going to use erase one more time. Click my first point, click my second point. Notice I'm using window, so anything enclosed is included. Press enter. Good. Now select File, Save. Excellent. Close the program. Great. And you'll notice in here, double click the icon, that drawing now has the latest version of what I'm working on of the CAD program. All right, so that's all time we have for today. You've learned a number of different items. Try to repeat this over and over again to the point where you don't have to watch the video to be able to repeat it, because this is all information that is expected, yet you know the next day. And in class, we just move forward from there. And until then, take care. And like I say, the more you practice, the more repetitive this gets. It's like a language. Repetition is everything to make sure that you understand the commands and the process within the program properly. Thank you for today. We'll see you next day.